Having just completed the blocking stage of our vehicle by creating the basic shape here, I want to spend a little time focusing on the silhouette. When we're talking about the basic shapes and forms of our vehicle, the silhouette actually becomes very, very important because particularly if the vehicle is, say, in the background or if it's blurred out or the focus isn't on it in some way or another, the silhouette is what's going to stand out versus the actual detail. Up close, you need to try and reach a good balance where you've got the detail and the form, but with a good focus on the silhouette, since the silhouette is really what's going to create the overall feeling of the vehicle. You see this a lot done in professional concept art, where the artist will actually start by blocking in strictly the silhouette to get a feeling for the overall design, and then they'll start working in on the details. And so I want to go kind of the same route here, where we spend a little time creating the basic form like we've just done, and then adjusting and fine-tuning the silhouette to get a better feeling of the vehicle, and then we can jump in and start doing the detail work. So in order to do this, though, I want to compare it and use the final artwork, the concept from David Revoy, as our basis for the silhouette. So to do that, I want to go ahead and bring it up into Blender. And the easiest way to do that is just to go ahead and divide our screen and load one up in the UV image editor. But, I mean, we could go ahead and do this pretty easily, but we could do it even quicker if we just hit Control right arrow a couple of times. We can cycle through the different screens right here to give us the UV editing one. In which case, we can go ahead and just go down to Image and Open, and then we'll cycle back through here to the concept and grab the vehicle artwork. Then we can just click Open. We can go ahead and hit N to close this Properties panel over here. And over here, we can hit T to close this Properties panel. And now we have just our viewport and our UV image view such that we can focus exclusively on the model and the concept without having to worry about any of the properties or anything like that. And so what I want to do, first, let's just kind of, by using our middle mouse button, just rotating the view, try and kind of replicate the basic angle that we have in the concept, and that's actually pretty close right in there. And the main thing that really pops out at me that needs changed is this plane right here. On our concept, we have this very nice, graceful, aerodynamic curve right up through here, through the cockpit on over to what I'll call basically the shoulders of the vehicle. And this being when David and I were originally working through this concept and trying to come up with the ideas of what we wanted, one of the main sources of inspiration was basically a hawk or a bird of prey, which have very, very strong wing muscles. And so you get that really nice arched head and beak on back to the shoulder area. And so that's kind of what we want to replicate right in here. And on our model right now, we have this slope of the cockpit and then this quick jut up going up to the wings. And even though that may be what it looks like on the modeling sheet, at this point, when we're working with the silhouette and fine-tuning it, we don't really care what it looks like on the modeling sheet. The modeling sheet is going to be our reference for doing the actual details, proportions, and things like that. But then if we have to make some changes to the silhouette or to some overall proportions and things like that to make the vehicle actually work, then that's okay. We can stray away from the modeling sheet as we need to. So let's just go ahead and hit Tab to go into edit mode. And one thing, I want to go down here to my viewport header and just enable this option right here such that I don't see these background vertices. So I'll just click that and now we can see it. And you'll notice also that I'm in proportional view right now. So if I hit 5, I can switch to orthographic, but I want to be sure that I'm in perspective. Sorry, not proportional, but perspective. This way, you know, we can get a more accurate look at how the vehicle is actually constructed. And so let's go ahead and grab, say, these two vertices first, or actually these three, just by shift right clicking on them. I'm going to hit G and Z and pull them up about like this. Let's go ahead and deselect them. Then I'll grab these two and I'll hit G and then Z again, pull them up. And then let's also go ahead and take the wings here, or the top of the wings, and we'll pull them down just a little bit like that. Same thing, let's go ahead and grab this one, we'll pull it down a bit. And what I think I'll go ahead and do is, as we're working on this silhouette, we also will need to make a few changes to our mesh in order to make some of these changes work. And so what I want to do is I want to add in another loop through here. So I'm going to grab this vertex here and hit V to just rip it apart. So I'll pull it back just a little bit just so I can see some separation. I'll also go ahead and grab this one, and with my mouse on this side, I'm going to hit V to rip that apart. And that's really what I want right here. And so now I'm going to go ahead and select these two vertices. I'm going to hit W and merge. And I'll go ahead and just merge them at center. Then let's just select this edge by shift right clicking to select that vertex. We'll hit X and delete the edges just so that it removes this whole face. Because then what I'll do is just add in a new loop cut right through here with Control R. And then I can just right click to leave it in the center. And we'll adjust some of these to even them out here in a little bit. But what this then allows me to do is bring this down, I can bring this down, and then I can go ahead and select these four vertices, hit F, and fill a face. And then in order to keep this working like this, I'll need to go ahead and add in a new edge loop. So I'll just go ahead and add one in right here, hit Control R, slide it over, left click, and then I can fill in these four vertices, and by Alt right clicking on this edge and Shift Alt right clicking on this edge, I can select those, hit F, and fill a face. And so now what I've done is I've just improved my edge flow such that this angle here, which is basically reflected in this angle right through here, you can see if I draw in with a grease pencil by holding down D, it's basically this same angle going through there that we'll be replicating. And so now let me just, I don't know what I just did actually. We'll remove that, there we go, just remove that layer. Okay, and so that's what we want to replicate there. So now that I've made a couple of those changes, let's first just go in and switching out of perspective mode, let's just kind of fine tune this a little bit, just evening out our mesh flow. So I can Alt right click on one of these edge loops, hit Control E and edge slide, bring it down a little bit. I'll kind of even these out. I don't want this to be a straight angle, I want this to be a nice slope. And so I'll pull some of these down, maybe pull some of this down. Same thing here. Rotate around, maybe pull this back up there. Same thing. And so I'm just trying to kind of even things out. On these ones, I might go ahead and select these through to here. Control E, edge slide a little bit, about like that. And the reason that I'm evening it out is simply because it's something that we want to be sure to do as we are doing the blocking stage and putting in all this base detailing basically, because if we do it now, it'll make it a lot easier to keep our mesh nice and clean as we go along. So just kind of tweaking some of these a little bit. Again, I'm just right clicking and shift right clicking to select multiples and then hitting G to move it. Occasionally I will constrain it to an axis by hitting either X, Y, or Z depending on the axis that I want. And okay, that looks pretty good. So then I've just kind of evened that out. Let's go ahead and I'm going to get rid of the grid view because it's distracting when I'm just trying to focus on the silhouette. So let's hit N to bring over our properties panel. We can toggle all these down so that we don't see them, or toggle them up, I guess. And we just want to look at the display options. And under display, I want to uncheck the grid floor. And then I can hit N to close the properties again. Let's make sure that we're in perspective mode by hitting number pad 5. We'll go ahead and kind of get our angle back again, which was something similar to this. It doesn't have to be exact, but just close enough that we can get a general idea. So we can see that maybe we want to go ahead and bring these up a little bit. So I've got these four vertices that are the top face. I'm going to hit S and Z just to flatten them out a bit, just a little bit, and then I'll hit G and Z, pull them up along the Z axis. And it's okay if I have a little bit of a raise here. That would kind of simulate, say, the shoulder muscles in a hawk, or also give me this kind of different angle right here. That will be a different portion of the, or basically a different part of the structure. We can go ahead and slide these up just a little bit. We'll take these up. This edge right in here definitely needs to pull back quite a bit. So let's take it back. Then we'll take this. And we can see that we're going to have some trouble with the topology right in this area. And so let's go ahead and fix that now. So what I'll do is let's just grab these two vertices. Let's hit V to rip it. And you'll notice that it grabbed the bottom ones. And so let's just move them down a little along the Z axis, and then we'll grab these ones. We'll rip it again, pull them up. which is exactly what I want. And that's one problem with the rip tool, is you'll find that a lot of times you have to do multiple rips just to get the way that you want. And so then we can just go ahead and merge these ones back together. So hit W, merge at center. And then what we'll do is let's first see where we want to add in an edge loop the most. Maybe, well, let's see. Let's go hitting Control left arrow a couple times. Let's switch back to our side view or our regular view here and take a look at the mesh or the modeling sheet. And we can see that this flow is going to come down a little bit like this. So we want to be sure that we've got some nice edge loops coming around like this, and then these ones maybe a loop going up through there. And so we can use that to then kind of decide how we want to work this. So what I'm going to do is let's take this edge loop. We're going to hit V. Oh, nope. Let's see. Why don't we do... Let's first go ahead and select these. We'll hit F to fill that face. And then I'm going to grab this vertex. I'm going to hit V to rip it. And then sometimes if you just kind of undo and then just move your mouse on other sides of the angles, you can get a better idea of where it's going to rip. So I'm just going to pull this back. And then we're going to grab this loop here by alt-right clicking, hit V, pull it back along the y-axis, maybe down just a little bit, scale it just a little along the z-axis, and then I can just go ahead and fill in these areas like this. And some of this topology may change, but for the time being, we want to just let the topology kind of be defined based on the form around it. So if we switch into face mode by hitting Control-Tab, you can then kind of select these loops and see where they're going. And right now that actually looks pretty good. So just alt-right clicking on the edge between the face. Okay, switching back into vertex mode, we've got that. From the side, we can see that we've got this nice angle coming down here. And if we switch back over to our normal view, we can see this angle here. So we can see that this view or this mesh is definitely very wrong right now. So let's pull it back along the y-axis about like that. Then the top one will pull back again. So we want a nice kind of slope down. Let's check the top view from our modeling sheet and just kind of see how it's structured. And it looks to be like this is going to be kind of a bulky part right here. This would be basically the center of the back muscles, shaped like this. So let's try and kind of replicate that. So we'll pull these ones out along the y-axis, these ones out. We can take these ones back. We can see how this portion is coming back down like this. And so what I want to do is let's go ahead and restructure these edge loops some. And this is where, I know that we are focusing on the silhouette, but since the silhouette is defining our shape, that also defines our topology as well. And if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to check out some of the other topology videos that we have on Blender Cooking, but particularly the Blender Conference 2010. I gave a topology presentation that talked a lot about using your shape to define your topology, but then letting your topology flow with the shape, basically. And so that's the same kind of thing we want to do right now. And since the silhouette is our shape, a lot of our topology is going to be defined by that. And we won't know what the shape is exactly until we define how the silhouette's going to be, thus defining our topology as well. And so I want to just kind of tweak this a little bit as we go. But what I want to look at right now is we have these couple faces, switching to face mode with Control-Tab, we have these couple of faces coming down like this, basically defining this back edge of the wing. And we want these to continue on down like this. But right now, in order to get this structure, these faces suddenly go this way. So what I want to do is restructure this area right in here, to go down like this and merge right in there. And this is actually pretty easy to do. You just remove the grease pencil by holding down D and right-click and dragging over it. So I'm going to switch back into vertex mode. And let's just select this vertex. We'll hit V, rip it back. We'll grab this one. We'll try it from a couple of different angles. There we go. That'll work. So again, just hit V. And what I want to do is I want to bring it down through this, not necessarily this loop, but another loop right here. So let's hit Control R, add in a loop like this. We can also go ahead and select this loop, Control E, edge slide it down. And then we can fill in this loop right there. And then what we'll do is, let's see, looking at this, that will then come down. Actually, no, let's do it even more than that. Let's go ahead and remove. Let's remove this loop. We'll alt right click on it, hit X, delete the edge loop. Let's also go ahead and delete this face. I can just select the edge, hit X, delete the edge. And then I'm going to bring this all the way down to right here, actually. And you can see I get an error that says it cannot find a nice quad from concave set of vertices. So what this means is that we just need to bring some of these out to better fit the angle of each of the edges so they line up nicely like that. So we'll bring that down. While we're doing this, we can go ahead and adjust some of the vertices to get a nice flow. Adjust some of these in here. Some of these. Bring these down. Maybe we'll bring these up. And then what we just need to do is go ahead and we can select this vertex, shift right click to select that one, hit W, merge at last. That way it merges right there, keeping everything nicely intact. Then we can just alt right click, alt shift right click to select both those edges, and hit F to fill that face. And that should define our silhouette a lot nicer. Check it out from the different views. We can see we've got this nice ridge that's going to be formed right here through these faces, just like that. Going around, we can maybe move some of these vertices back. Say take some of these back like this. Take that back. And just kind of even out some of that flow right in there. Then we'll take these back along the y-axis. And don't worry if some things aren't lining up perfectly here. We can always adjust them after everything's said and done. I mean, we might even it out just a little bit, but again, the main thing we want to focus on is the actual silhouette versus the overall structure. Let's go ahead and select this whole area though. I'm just going to select all that in wireframe mode, and I'm going to hit O to turn on my proportional editing tool, and then I'm just going to hit G and Z and pull it down and maybe scale up my proportional editing just a little bit. And basically, we're just going to bring the whole wing down a little, because notice that from the side view, the wing looks to be a little too high. And so if I bring it down, I'll be able to create a nicer silhouette for that. Okay. Turning O off while in edit mode, I'm going to bring this vertex back just a little bit. It just felt like it was pinching a bit too much. And let's go ahead and save our file. Let's switch back, hitting Control right arrow a few times to switch back to our UV editing view and get another good feel for how this is going. This looks pretty good. We can see that we're getting this nice shape right in here, which matches that pretty well. This looks pretty good. The tail fins maybe need to be adjusted a little bit, but that'll be something that'll be real easy to adjust. And that actually looks pretty good. So I think we're going to go ahead and leave that just like it is. So we'll end this section right here, and we will pick up on the next part where we're actually going to go in and separate out the different pieces and start adding or separating them out, such as like the cockpit, the panels, the wings, etc., so we can really start seeing the separation of the pieces and getting a better idea. Having just greatly refined the silhouette, I want to go ahead and start separating out the different pieces of our vehicle based on the primary components and kind of the type of the form that we're working with. And really, this will just allow us to better distinguish between the pieces and start refining the mesh as we go, rather than trying to have to work on the entire vehicle at the same time. So the way that I'm going to separate this out is based on, like I said, the major components, such that the main cockpit area, or namely the windshield, will be one mesh, and then most of the green parts will be one mesh, perhaps with one main one for the body, one for the wings, and then one for the tail. And then all these engine components will also be primarily one mesh. And so this is going to be pretty easy to do, pretty quick and easy. So real quick here, I'm just going to get rid of this view because I don't need it at the moment. And so I'm just going to hit Shift Space to maximize this view such that I can go ahead and just work exclusively on this one. And what I can do then is I'll just select this, hit Tab to go into edit mode. And first on the cockpit area, I'm just going to select by Control, left click and dragging. I'm just going to draw around these areas, something about like that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and hit P and separate by selection. Then I'll go ahead and select the tail fins here. So I'll first select this, and then I'm going to go ahead and we'll go ahead and then also select these areas here. And again, we'll hit P and separate by selection. And then let's go ahead, hit 1, go into front view. And looks like I messed up one of my background images and have the side view set to all views. So I'll just set that over to the right side. There we are. So from the front view, I'm then going to go ahead and select this edge and this edge and this one. So all the ones ringing the wings, except you'll notice that we've got some slight differences there. So I'm just going to go ahead and select all of that. And then rotating around here, I'm just going to left click and drag while holding down Control to select all of that. And again, I will hit P and separate by selection. So this just allows me to kind of isolate the different parts such that I should have the windshield, the main body, the wings, and the tail fin. And so while we're at it, let's go ahead and name these. And so currently, I don't actually have a properties view set up. And so what I need to do is I'm just going to left click and drag right across here from this handle. And then I will go down to this panel and I'm going to switch this one over to the properties window type. And then if I want to put the header at the top like it normally is, I can just right click on here and flip to the top. So now I have a normal properties panel like I generally would. And I'll go ahead and, actually I'm going to split this one more time and bring up the outliner view as well, just getting us back to the normal default. And so now I can go ahead, I'm going to Control left click on this one here, which I can see is the tail fin. So I'll Control click, and we're just going to call this, we'll call it geo underscore tail fin. And the reason that I'm calling it, putting geo in there as the prefix is that way I'll be able to kind of categorize things by geometry-based objects versus, say, lamp objects, cameras, and so on. So I'll select the body, Control left click, and it'll be geo underscore body. I'll select the wings, again, geo underscore wings, and then the cockpit, and geo underscore cockpit. And we're going to go ahead and name this exterior, as we'll be probably doing the interior as well. And so that way we can just kind of, name things in advance. And that looks good. Okay, let's go ahead and be sure to save our files. And then what I want to do now is we've got the pieces separated out, and we're not going to do anything else between those because all of the next detail work is going to be done in the next section. But what I can do is to go ahead and start coloring these to get a better idea of the mesh. So first, let's just select the body. Let's go over to the materials, and we'll just use the default material that's already applied. And we're going to go ahead and call this green. And so we can just left click on here and type in green. And I'm leaving it very ambiguous for now, intentionally, because we're not worried about creating the actual material surface or anything like that. We just want the basic color representation to get a good idea of what we're looking at. So with that selected, I'm going to go ahead and choose the diffuse color here, grab the color picker, and then let's just left click somewhere in here with a decent green. So that'll be pretty good. And then I also like to turn the specularity all the way down so that I'm not looking at highlights while doing the basic model. Okay, I'm going to grab the cockpit, and on this one, first I'll click the numeral here to create a single user of it, such that it creates a new copy. And now I'll go ahead and call this one We'll just do this as light gray, and we'll choose a basic gray color here. So I'll first take it all the way down to the bottom to make it all the way black, which resets this at the center. And then I'm just going to take this up to be a kind of mid to light gray. Then I'm going to go ahead and select this portion in here. And actually, no, that's supposed to be the same. Oh, and actually realized I forgot to separate out the main body. So let's hit tab to go back in edit mode. We're going to go ahead and select this part here, and then we'll select all of this part here, and let's go through all the way to well, let's see. We'll just go ahead. We're not going to separate this out yet because that'll require us doing some mesh difference or some major mesh work. But let's just select this in here, and then we'll select all these along the bottom, and we'll go ahead and click the plus sign to add in a new material slot in here, to which we'll assign a new material by creating a new duplicate. And this will be our dark gray. And on this dark gray, again, we'll set it all the way down to black, and then reset it back up to a dark gray. You'll notice that this is still in green, so then we just need to click assign, and that will add in the dark gray to it. And that's pretty much it. So that gives us the basics here. Although let's go ahead and I'm going to hit Control Tab, switch into face mode, and I'm just going to select these three faces and choose the dark gray, and then click assign. And so again, that just kind of helps us separate some pieces out to start getting a better idea of what we're looking at. You know, if we go into camera view or things like that, we can quite easily see, even though we haven't actually changed our mesh at all, but we can quite easily see, you know, what's supposed to be what. So we can see that the engine's going to be right in here, our main body panels are going to be through here, the windshield here, tail fin, etc. So this really just allows us to distinguish between the different parts.